Okay, so I think one of the things that we can do now is go into the 8 Jungian cognitive functions. And let's detail these out. We don't have to spend a lot of time on each one, but
Right.
just a minute or two on each one. Let's talk about what the wisdom of this has for us. Now, we recorded an entire podcast for each one of these.
Yeah.
That basically said why the world needs, and then fill in the function for all 8. So there's 8 episodes. If you go back in the archives, the legacied archives of Personality Hacker, we talk about this in great depth. But today we want to give you a little cursory, almost like a map legend of these you can take and then begin to implement right away.
So I put together this list for a program that we're teaching called, I think it was for life path coaching. So it's actually a program that comes after a personality life path. And we were discussing, our relationship to our functions and what it is that we're really trying to get out of them. And I put together this list of what's the difference between using a function versus calling upon its wisdom. So I'm gonna reference my list here. But I think what's nice about these, and I would recommend to pay special attention to any function that you think annoys you. Right? Like, especially the ones that you're like, I don't understand why that thing has to exist. Now, like you said, we record podcasts on why each of the functions are important, but particularly the ones that are irritating you. If it annoys you or irritates you, or you don't have good representatives of the function in your life, like the people who are using them are not, they are rubbing you the wrong way.
Yeah.
You might be missing something that's vital and crucial, something that might be really important for you to know. Even if you don't start using that function all the time, you should at least know what the wisdom of it is, so that when you see it being done, and particularly done well, you want to foster that. You want to continue to encourage that and bless it, not just go, oh, I don't understand why this function has to exist.
Yeah.
All right. You want to start with the perceiving functions?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So perceiving functions, again, these are the ways that we take in information to perceive our world. We have a whole bunch of content on personalhacker.com. If this is too deep for you, or you're like, whoa, where do I start? How do I access this? Go up. You could do some research. Just type in cognitive functions or CAR model on our website, and you get a whole bunch of information on that.
Yeah. All right. Let's start with introverted sensing or memory. So what is using introverted sensing or memory? Well, the easiest way to kind of parse it down to its simplest description is recalling specific details from past experiences to inform current decisions. Like, that's the easiest way to describe how most people are using it. So introverted sensing or memory tracks changes over time. That's one of the biggest things that it does. It just understands the difference between how it was before and how it is now. And so if you are constantly tracking changes over time, even down to details, then what are you supposed to do with that information? Well, you're using it to inform your current decisions, right? It's like, well, it used to be this way, but now it's this way. Okay, so how does that help inform what I do next? But there's a wisdom to the function, and this is the wisdom. Understanding the importance of honoring personal and collective history, recognizing how the past shapes the present, and valuing consistency and continuity. That's the wisdom of it. So it's a mistake to think of introverted sensing or memory as just about remembering stuff from your past. It's actually understanding the importance and honoring our history, not just as individuals, but also as societies, as a species, as living organic tissue, right? As things that exist from a point of origin that we cannot explain.
Yeah.
Like, introverted sensing or memory is tapping into the wisdom of everything that came before.
Yeah. I mean, recently I had this thought as I was thinking about cultures around the world and the different customs that people have, the different cultural moments. No matter where you are on the planet, people have festivals and cultural moments, and often that involves food and eating. And I realized that where you are in the world geographically, what has come before and the legacy of the plant material and the animal material around you and the environment you're in inform the type of food you can grow, which inform the cultural expressions, which informed, quote unquote, the rules of a society.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, man, there's deeper wisdom in introverted sensing or memory. I can look at a society and their expression, and if you go down to the roots of that, a lot of it is based on the small changes over time of the food sources, the location, the environment, And the memories of that stacked over centuries has brought us to this moment of expression.
Yeah.
And so in a way, there's like this deeper wisdom, that this long tail that goes into the past that's not about my personal history at all.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about myself in that equation in any respect at all.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a culture going, oh, this is where they came from.
Yep.
This is what shaped them. And it's very physical. It's tied to the earth. It's tied to the environment. It's tied to the food they produce from that location on the earth, or a lack of food on that location of the earth.
Yeah.
And I think that's an example of like trying to tune into the wisdom of this function and maybe what you can see behind the curtain.
Yeah. That makes me think of the book Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond.
Yeah.
Right. And there's so much good information in a book like that.
Yeah.
Because it's just tracing things back to those kinds of, the kinds of things that informed why cultures emerged the way that they did. And that information is found in introverted sensing or memory, tracing it back to its point of origin and its roots. I think it's also very important on a personal level to not devalue one's past.
Yeah.
I see a lot of memes that say things like, it's like, don't define me by my past. I don't live there anymore. And it's like, well, I mean,
You kind of do.
Kinda. I mean, it's like sort of like you don't live there, but you certainly were forged in the crucible of your past. So it definitely informs who you are now. Not to say that it limits you, not to say that you are limited by your past, but that's like, there's something about taking an accounting for where you came from that I think it's half of the formula of gaining self-confidence.
Well, I think that's the wisdom that introverted sensing memory gives us is accountability.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps track.
Yes.
It measures what has come before, and it
Mm-hmm.
records it
Yes.
historically. And I think that is what the beauty of this brings to us. Like the real wisdom it shows us.
Yep.
And illustrates to us.
And if we don't have it, then we don't know what's important and what isn't. And we just start setting fire to everything.
Yeah.
Right. Or we keep everything and we're not able, either we become hoarders or we become anarchists. And we don't have the first word of the list that is emerging for you, which is discernment. Right. The wisdom of introverted sensing or memory is when we are making changes, when we're in a time period of disruption, when we're in a time period of like becoming a different style, right? A different culture or whatever, what are the important things to keep? And we don't just go, well, we don't have to keep anything. Like we just remove the past. We go, no, we're going to keep some of our heritage, or we're going to keep these aspects of our heritage. So, and that includes on a personal level. I don't just mean on a societal level. I mean, on a personal level, what should you be keeping? Right? What is important for you to continue to travel with throughout your life? And introverted sensing or memory tells you what's important.
And what do you do when it's dirtied? That's the other part of the wisdom is you can't throw it all out. There might be dirty material in there, like bad trauma, bad material in there.
Yeah.
But it still made us who we are. And so we have to understand the wisdom of how to bring forward some of all the experiences and bring them into our lives. But not overemphasize the trauma, but don't just ignore it. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff here.
Yes.
Societally and personally.
Yes.
I think of like entertainers, very famous people who created some of the most wonderful content that we've ever experienced as humans. We found out some pretty terrible stuff about those people. We're like, but I love that show, but this person's a terrible person. But my history and my growing up was this person, as my childhood was on this show. Oh, they're a horrible person. What do I do with this?
Right.
There's wisdom in understanding how to parse through that, like understanding that and knowing what to keep and what to toss. And that's not always easy.
Yeah.
So I think this function gives us the ability to do that if we tap into that wisdom.
Yeah. Its purpose is to help us process experience.
Yeah.
That's what it does. It's introverted sensing. It's processing experience. And processing experience means going through, like, asking those difficult questions, really considering the implications of things, like you say, the accountability of it. And then one knows that they have done sufficient processing of this function because the reward is peace. You get peace of mind and acceptance of your past. So the wisdom of the function leads to peace of mind and acceptance, not accepting things you shouldn't accept. Because it will have the wisdom to tell you not to do that, right? It won't have you accept something you should not be accepting. It will encourage you to understand how changes can be made because you'll have seen changes in your life. So it actually has quite a bit to share.